Oh my goodness, welcome. Because this is such an important and critical, key, valuable workshopping session that you're going to want to definitely devour with your heart. So, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to bring this to you. We've got so much to give you. I'm just, over the moon happy about this. Okay. Hello to each and every one of you if you're watching the replay. Yes, you are, and that's also amazing. So I'm seeing in the chat, Colleen, welcome, and Wanda and Leanne, you've made it. That's amazing on a work day. And of course, Rochelle, because without you, we couldn't do this. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. You might be catching us again, as I said in the replay, and take it in because this is so good. All right. I want to just say that each and every one of us, no matter how amazing our childhood was, we all need healing. And if you think about it, if you're open to it, you are indeed healing, truly healing each and every moment of your life. If you're open to the experiences that your life is bringing you, if you're open and aware of your triggers and your reactions in the world, and if you're open to the desire to heal, healing can occur in each and every moment. And a big part of that is holding your heart open to that experience. So I hope after today, you will walk around with your armor that opens more to life's wonder, and you're a little less sensitive to the world and to things that might typically trigger you. And you'll be more aware of those triggers and where they really come from. It's not perhaps the person that's in front of you or the traffic or the situation, but it's, oh, that reminds me, or, oh, I feel the same as, or, oh, that's similar to an earlier time. And this work is going to be so valuable for you. That said, we're going to talk about what is the inner child and also what is trauma and why are negative and trauma memories so much more tangible. It's like they're right beneath the surface, and how come that is. And also we're going to go through some tools for healing. We're going to go through one particular process that I would do with you if you were sitting across from me in a session. And by the way, this workshop is like as close as you can get to being in a session with me, because we're going to be diving into some very important, deep-rooted, transformational concepts. And one more quick thing, I have to just show it to you now. We're going to go over it a little bit more toward the end. Thank you, Rochelle, because Rochelle took our conversations and my emails and my input, and she made us this. So all those constructs and concepts and the tools I would give you in a session, we have for you an inner child healing workbook. It's 12 pages. And it's only beginning. I'm sure we'll have a second version, but nonetheless, please consider getting this. I'll tell you more about it as we go along. Okay. You're also going to need this and paper, because you're going to want to capture the intuitive responses of your inner child as she and he are speaking to you through this workshop. All right, here we go. What is an inner child? The inner child is a representation. It is a real and also imagined description of the younger part of you. You can immediately return to and experience an earlier moment in your life simply by thinking about it. So we all have moments of an earlier time of childhood. It's just the ones that were negative or disruptive or hurtful or traumatic are certainly going to be more impactful to us. A trauma is any event and or experience that has impacted you, that you have not had the tools or the ability through skills and guidance to be able to process that earlier experience, to understand it from a different and a higher vantage point that gives you a different way of seeing it, and certainly of the ability to not see yourself as being at fault or at blame. Because as a child, we tend to internalize what happens, and we think it definitely has to do with us, when on many occasions it has nothing to do with us. And so when you are healing trauma memories, you are learning how to be free of the psychological, emotional, physical, and physiological impact of that experience. Trauma memories continue to be with you. That is, when you experience a stressor, let's say the stressor is somebody yelling, or you see a fight, or something in a movie is traumatizing, the mind and body are reacting automatically in that moment and instinctively in a similar way to how it did in an earlier time. And for those of us who have had similar experiences, that is, similar trauma events, and repetitiously, and in repetition over, let's say, years, right? Because if they're happening in your family of origin, you're going to be so sensitive and so sensitized to these events and triggers that they are going to show up in your life. And sometimes, because of how the brain processes information as a child, I for sure think that adage, carry on, that whole adage, that stiff upper lip and just carry on, I am sure that that came from childhood, because as a kid, you're always just in front of the next moment and the next moment. And so your focus is just going to the next moment, and what do I have to do now? What do I have to do next? And so a lot of things get buried and internalized, and we don't have the ability typically to really sit and think, okay, what happened there? Why did that happen? How was that possible? Like, we don't have the skills typically to do that. And so many experiences happen in childhood. They get laid down in our memories, and later in life, things come up, things come forward. We're re-traumatized, or we experience similar events, and we think, oh, wow, that feels a lot like this older event. It's because, in large part, we haven't had the ability to really understand and learn from. And how would we? We're a child, right? We're just moving on to the next thing. And so naturally, there's going to be some events where we really need to look at those and explore them with a fresh and a different set of perspective and experiences, and certainly education. I want to give you some important information next about why negative memories seem to be more easily accessible, even so more than positive memories. Negative events often have this stronger emotional impact as a survival mechanism. Our brains are wired to remember negative experiences as a way to protect us from future harm. It's like our internal alarms going off saying, oh, no, we remember what happened before, don't do that, or don't go there. The idea is that by recalling these difficult, negative, even painful experiences, that we can learn from them and avoid similar situations, except that we can't always do that. If you have a parent who is a chronic yeller and gets angry and violent, you can't always experience that. You may know, oh, danger, danger, but if it's directed at you, or if it's in the house and you're hearing it day in and day out, that's going to be traumatic. And even though you might understand it isn't always about you, it's still harmful. What happens, and especially during childhood, is that we recall painful experiences of a trauma event, of course, without having the proper tools and mechanisms for understanding why they happened, and to remember and to know that as children, we are innocent to so much of what happens around us. And we aren't given the means for overcoming the hurt. So that is, maybe a parent didn't sit down with us and apologize or explain or ask us how we were feeling or attend to our needs or be able to give us a hug when we're sad. there's a lot of things that happen our parents aren't privy to as well. So it makes sense that by the time we reach adulthood, even if our childhood was full of love and butterflies and unicorns, that there'll be things that have happened, right? Our best friend could move away. We could experience a loss of a loved one and not have had an experience of death before that. Or we could go through life and our first part-time job at 13 we get fired from. I mean, some events don't happen at 7, 8, and 9. They could happen at 13, 14, 15. The whole point is things are happening to us all the time. And how we continue to store memory is also based on whether we perceive something as hurtful, as traumatic, or if we're able to process it in the moment or soon thereafter, and then put it in a different category, maybe marked neutral, or this thing that happened that wasn't my fault, which is going to feel a lot different than if it was marked under the heading of trauma. One important reason why therapy is valuable for healing the inner child wounds is that you have the expertise of a trained professional. You have the guidance to help you process this event in a different way. You're also encouraged to name it. I mean, before 5 years ago, we didn't even really hear the word trauma. And we would associate trauma with these huge, life-altering, grand situations like a tsunami or an explosion in a building. But we understand today that while those are traumatic, for some people, trauma is being fired from a job, or trauma is going into work every day and coworkers are negligent and hurtful and undermining. Trauma is a breakup for some. Trauma is childhood abuse for so many. So naming it has been so important culturally, societally, and certainly as you work with someone to help you. Putting labels on what's happened gives you information and gives you a perspective to look at it in a different way that for you highlights and helps you understand why you are feeling the way you feel. All right, we're going to go into healing next because this is the part that I want you to take away and be able to do more of for yourself. There might be some of you, I'm sure, who have begun this work of healing the inner child. And as I said, we can walk through a whole day and there are going to be opportunities for you to heal from what's happened to you if you just look, if you just pay attention. We might also be triggered and re-traumatized by things that happen in a day. And so recognizing what is triggering, what is causing us an emotion that is difficult, challenging, hurtful, what feels familiar to what has happened before or how we felt before is information that's valuable for us to be able to then heal from. I want us to think about what we need to heal the inner child. And this is going to be much more easier than I think you could even imagine. We're going to talk about how do you know what you need to heal? And I'm going to walk you through a very intuitive, simple, directive way for you to receive that answer. It is simpler than you might think. We're going to do this right now. So I'd like you to begin, if you're willing to do this with me. Begin with one experience, one moment, one hurt that you might typically, with my help, if we were in a session together, go about seeking to understand this experience from a different vantage point and to get greater understanding from. I want you to think about one event that has occurred in your life, in your earlier life, that might still feel troubling or hurtful when you think about it. And just write it down. Take a moment and just make a note of it so you've identified it. Anything at all. Choose one thing. And the goal today here is you're going to be able to have a tool that you can then use to heal one situation from your inner child experience that then I will quite confidently say is going to have this ripple effect outward towards other situations and events, because what happens is when you begin to heal one thing, there's a greater sense of understanding that you bring to another situation and another situation. So think of one thing, write it down. Think about one situation that still conveys for you or holds a sense of hurt or upset. All right. You have your memory or past experience written down. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to now practice with me, or let me take you through a way of knowing what healing you need. You have the experience that's, let's say, still unhealed. And we're going to go into a tool next for helping you discern in a very intuitive way what needs your healing. There are different ways to understand and know what needs healing. We can do it the way we just did a moment ago, where you're looking into a past event that still feels or carries with it a pang of hurt or sadness, or maybe it's fear. We can do this another way, which is very intuitive. So I'm going to walk you through another tool for how you know what you need to heal. And then we'll talk about how you'll know what you need to do to heal. All right. I'm going to ask you to place one hand on your heart center if you'd like. This just gives you a sense of grounding in the present. And of course, it's a comforting feeling to just connect, touching your heart center, holding presence. What is your intuitive response to the question, what does my inner child need to heal? What does my inner child need to heal? Let that be your question and reflection. What I encourage of you, if you'd like to try this, is imagine you're having a conversation with your inner child, this beautiful, perfect part of you that's always with you. And you can ask her or him, what do you need to heal? What do you need to heal? And let yourself be silent as you listen. You sense, what do you, as my inner child, need to heal? Trust your answer. Write it down. So you've got your inner child voice, you've got an answer, write it down. And you also have, from a moment ago, you have also written what experience is still unresolved that needs healing. So you've got two answers, one from a more analytical perspective and one from a more heart response driven. And you can feel and sense which of those practices you might be more engaged to use. And certainly both are acceptable, both are valuable, both will work. Maybe you find one works for you a little bit more intuitive. There you go. So John, I appreciate your comment here. It's actually a really good example you share. as children, we can find it difficult to reconcile why a parent is angry, why their anger seems directed toward us. And in some cases, if a parent has the inability to self-control or self-regulate, we can experience a lot of their temperament, whether it's anger or another emotion that's directed to us that may certainly not be for us or misguided toward us, right? So as a child, we can be confused by it. We can certainly feel hurt by it. We can not always understand it, right? Good. All right. Next, I'm going to ask you a very important question. This question will guide what you and I work on together, and certainly what you can do to help yourself. I want you to ask the question. This is of you now. This is of your adult current self. Ask the question of yourself, how do I want to feel about this situation healed? So you're identifying here what inner child healing you need by asking, how do I want to feel about the situation? So for you, John, how do I want to feel about the situation when I think about my mother and her anger? How do I want to feel every time I think about this situation with my sibling? Or how do I want to feel every time I think about this thing that happened at school that really, caused me a lot of embarrassment or humiliation? Your question to yourself next is really important. It's important because you want to create first the ending, the ideal that you want as an outcome. And from there, you're going to be able to work backwards to know what you need to do to create that and to achieve that. For example, if you want as an outcome to be able to feel calm around a certain person, maybe you want to be able to not have a relationship with that person because you realize that that's not going to be helpful for you or safe. Maybe your outcome is you want to feel safe in your world. Maybe your outcome is that you want to be able to feel calm and not anxious when you think about that event. Maybe your desired outcome, and maybe this is yours, John, you want to be able to have clear knowledge of why my mother was angry and not to feel badly or sad or hurt by it, right? And so when we create the desired outcome, and I want you to write that down, we have the end goal, and we can then begin the path to modeling what we need to do to feel that. That's our success goal. That's our end result. I want for you, as a goal for this workshop, each time you think about this past experience, to have an empowered and a different understanding and perspective, so that you can always feel confident or safe. You can feel any of the ways you desire to feel, and of course, that you don't blame yourself. So, one other thing, I want you to put as much detail into this outcome. So if it is to feel safe at home, to feel safe at work, to be in safe situations, to be able to calm myself, to be able to not put myself in situations where I might not feel safe. Think about in as much detail all of what the desired outcome is for you. The more detail, the more clarity, the more knowledge, the more instructional confidence we can build for that. And I also would like you to imagine yourself feeling this way. So if it is to feel safe, if it is to feel clarity, if it is to know the truth about why someone is angry, maybe your desired outcome is to not have a relationship with this person, and that's okay. Maybe your desired outcome is to feel more confident. Maybe your desired outcome is to know that people care about you and they don't judge you. And then to feel that desired outcome now. Take a moment. Visualize yourself in the present. Imagine feeling the way you want to feel. Now, each and every time you think about that past event, whatever the feelings are, whether it's safety, confidence, loved, protected, can be more than one. And just hold on to feeling that way in this moment. Just notice what the shift is for you. This is something that you practice. It's like driver's ed. You do a lot of practice in the car before you take the road test, and you may have to take the road test more than once, but the point is you practice because there's a lot of pieces here to know. There's a lot of emotions here to just be mindful of. And so I would invite you to practice this new feeling, this new desired way of being, how you want to feel and think about this old past event. And practice feeling and thinking now in this new way. And this is a journey. So we heal trauma, we heal the inner child by giving ourselves experiences and opportunities to practice feeling and being our new way, our new desired way. There's certainly many, many layers to inner child work, and forgiveness is one. You may need to forgive yourself for self-blame, self-ridicule, self-torture. You may need to forgive the other person. You may need to make changes. You may need to create healthy boundaries in your life if it's the same person or persons. You may need to decide that a relationship has to come to an end for your safety and well-being. You may need to trust in yourself more. There's another ripple effect of what is needed when you're healing the inner child, because there's different parts of what you'll need as tools and confidence and successes that help you gain that authority of feeling safe and secure in your life today. I want you to take away from today this ideal of how you want to think and feel whenever you recall the situation of trauma or hurt or difficulty or neglect or sadness, to practice feeling in your being this way that empowers you. And you will have practice, because there will be situations in your life where you'll feel triggered. You'll feel the familiarity of something that you felt before, and you'll have a chance to try on this new way of being and to deliberately take yourself out of the situation, be safe, gain greater clarity and understanding, process the current event so that it makes sense and you feel differently. You feel more in control. I want to remind you of how profound this work is. It's profound work because we all need to do it in order to feel healthy emotionally, psychologically. We all have hurts of our past we need to heal. And if we don't heal them, if we don't acknowledge them, examine them, practice what we just did as one of many strategies to decide how we will be different and what are the steps I need to be different, to take control back, to feel my power, to own my power, to forgive, to let go, but to have healthy boundaries so that I'm not going to get hurt by the same person who keeps doing the same thing. And so there's a process from this that invites you to love yourself more, Take better care of yourself. Give yourself permission to grieve if you need to. Give yourself permission to grieve the relationship you never had, the relationship you thought you had that you never had. To grieve an imperfect, if you want to use that word, or a childhood that had its moments, that had its hurts, like all childhoods do, right? Yeah, even some of the fables and fairy tales of our childhood and stories. There's messages there of the realities of a world where we can be hurt. So we're not too far from away from that. Practicing the desired way of being gives you this new blueprint. Our ability to change memories, our ability to react differently, all that neuroplasticity research that tells us we can change our reaction, we can rewrite situations based on how we want to feel and think. It's all powerful knowledge for us in the present to decide how we will be based on knowing what happened and also being willing to look at that and see that in the light that affirms our goodness, affirms we did nothing wrong, affirms that we're okay, we're good enough, we're loved, we're honorable, all of the things we need to remember. I feel like that is a lot. And I do hope that it was so very helpful for you. And of course, because this journey, I'm sure you are going to want to continue working on, I do encourage you to have a look at this workbook. Each of the 12 pages, I'm just going to show you the cover page. It's so beautiful. I've been actually working on things myself. It's been so great. Each of the 12 exercises are all different, which means you've got 12 new exercises with strategies and tools and teachings to help nurture and heal your inner child. I do encourage you to get a copy. It's going to be so helpful as you continue your own healing work. I think that's it. I think if there's any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll hang out and answer any of your questions. Just know that this is sacred work, right? This is not kind of like you can paint the wall and it's a different color in a matter of hours. This work you're going to see the change in a matter of hours, but then you're maybe going to need to put another coat on because there's an interesting effect, of course, of having, years of thinking and feeling a certain way about an incident or experience. It won't take years, but it will take some practice and some time to set up some new ways of thinking and feeling about it. And holding desired new outcome that you want is going to help you so much. It's going to empower you because you'll notice, oh, I just got triggered. Oh, I know what that's about. You can then step into how you truly want to be in the very next moment. And that's powerful. That awareness is hugely important. Thank you. Brilliant. Great. Good stuff. Thank you all for being here. Oh my goodness. And if you have any questions that you'd like to direct to me, you can always direct message me and or email me. I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Rochelle, for helping moderate, getting it all together for us, and for all of the beautiful work you put into this workbook, because I know it was another labor of love. Thank you all so much. Get the workbook. Thank you for being here. Oh my goodness. Was that good? I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. We'll see you next time. My love to you all. Love that inner child. Love that inner child. They just can't wait. They just not only feel your love, but it's like they yearn for it. You are the provider of your inner child's love at this moment. So be generous with it. Be generous with your love. Thank you. All right. Until next time. Namaste.